All right, welcome back. So South Africa's water woes seem far from over. In fact, several suburbs in Johannesburg have seen persistent water cuts or shortages. But over and above that, the Lesotho Highlands Water Project began its 6-month maintenance to ensure better water supply to Gauteng and other areas. According to some media reports, even after several complaints, the raw sewage at the Vaal River continues, affecting tourism and, of course, livelihoods there. And the Portfolio Committee on Water and Sanitation has raised concerns of the risk of Vaal Central and Magalies water boards going bankrupt in the next 6 to 12 months due to financial mismanagement. So generally speaking, what's the state of the country's water, and is the situation improving? It's a big question, and that's why we decided to bring on board water management expert and associate professor with UNISA. That's Professor Anja du Plessis, no stranger to our show and indeed the platform, with us here in studio. Prof, great to see you. Thanks for popping by.
Nice to see you as well.
It is a big question, right? But perhaps let's just begin with just the context of where we're at. I mean, you and I have spoken multiple times about the many different issues that we're facing, whether it's dilapidating infrastructure, not making sure that maintenance is seen through, and now it seems like the chickens are coming home to roost, so to speak.
Unfortunately, and now you're having a snowball effect, especially within the city of Johannesburg. And if you look at eThekwini, yes, the management in terms of that is a bit better. However, because of the low rainfall, the dams being at a low level, they are also looking at water restrictions and water outages. So to me, at the end of the day, it comes down to poor planning, especially in the city of Johannesburg and the Gauteng region as a whole. The population has increased exponentially over the past couple of decades. Unfortunately, our storage within our municipalities has not been upgraded. So you will see in some areas within the city of Joburg, like Sandton, Randburg, Soweto, Alexandra, all of those areas are consistently affected by water outages more than the others. And usually when you take a closer look at those areas, it's because of whether your leakages, your pipe bursts are higher, but your water consumption as a whole is also higher. So unfortunately, we can't really differentiate between consumer water and then obviously your non-revenue water losses. It's combined within the statistic. But within Johannesburg, close to 30% of water is being lost before it reaches the consumer. We should commend Joburg Water, I guess, for releasing a statement yesterday to say that 42 of their over 100 reservoirs are currently leaking. Now, this should have been addressed long ago. We've been reporting about this since 2021, 2022, and as you say, now the chickens have come home to roost. All kinds of confessions are being made. That's fine, because we want transparency, but what is actually happening on the ground in terms of investment and turnaround time of response?
Yeah, absolutely. Given the scale of the problem, I think that's such a staggering figure. I mean, to lose about 30% of drinkable water to something like leakages, for me, is untenable. What's your assessment around how long it will take to actually finally get around to fixing that, if in fact we have the political will and all kinds of things to get it done?
Well, unfortunately now in the city of Johannesburg and almost the whole Gauteng as a whole, it doesn't seem like we do have political will, unfortunately. I mean, eThekwini, in such a poor state, they are actually making progress. They are putting programs on the ground. However, if you look at Gauteng, it's been very quiet. And unfortunately, the progress that is happening is very slow to none. It's not happening fast enough to keep up with the demand. And we're heading into the summer season now. Temperatures are already in the high 20s. It's predicted to go into the 30s, and it still hasn't rained. So I would say that we are in quite a worrying state. Let's not debate whether it's a crisis or a predicament or day zero. At the end of the day, people's taps are starting to run dry. So for them, yes, it is a crisis. And I would say that the provincial government, if the local government does not want to step in, then provincial government needs to come and play as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, what's not lost to us is that South Africa is a water-scarce country. I remember learning this when I was still in school. And it seems, despite that, lifestyles aren't really changing. You know, I am yet to see, you know, major industrial buildings, for example, looking at their own reticulation systems, taps being installed to improve water efficiency. What's your sense around just the levels of consumption notwithstanding the challenges we've spoken about?
Yeah. Look, our consumption is high. It is above average. It's not at the global norm. So yes, we do have to change our attitudes. Like on my way to the studio, so many people watering their gardens. I mean, what time is it now? 10:30. So it's that type of attitude that needs to change. I understand that people say that the municipalities are blaming them. However, the reality is if we don't get our water consumption down, our water outages are going to be longer. So the reason why municipalities are asking that people should use less water is so that the system can build up pressure a bit quicker. But then again, as you say, there are attitudes out there as to say that I pay for my water, so why must I take a 3-minute shower? What we need to consider is Ubuntu, is to say, even though I have water, the person that's down the pipeline, if I use all of it, that person is not going to have water. So we need to create a sense of community in terms of water so that people can start to support each other and not be, I can understand the frustration, but to be frustrated and angry all of the time is not going to solve or try to create resilience within the system. So I've been advocating to say that we need to start talking about solutions on a residential level, industrial level, whatever it is, because the municipalities, unfortunately, are not coming to the party. And we cannot afford to wait for them any longer.
I was actually living in Cape Town around the time when there was a lot of talk around day zero. It felt like Armageddon on some days. I wonder if you reckon that municipality has come up with any long-lasting solutions that could be adopted elsewhere in the country?
Well, they are currently helping us on the platform of Water Secure Gauteng. So the people that were very involved during that time period are now consulting with us as well as DWS on this issue. So there are various awareness campaigns that they are looking at, communication strategies, decreasing demand, those types of things. But they've also said that we cannot rely on municipalities to start doing infrastructure maintenance as soon as possible, because that obviously takes a while. I spoke to someone at Johannesburg Water to say that, listen, you know, we need to view it in the context of it took us many years to get here. We're not going to get to the other side overnight, which I understand, but that should not be an excuse for the slow response that we are currently experiencing.
Without a doubt, if the scarcity of the resource is anything to go by, or if it's one thing, pollution is another. We've heard, of course, of the Vaal River continuing to see raw sewage spill into there. It's not a new story, Prof.
No.
And I suppose I shudder to ask how bad it's looking now, given just how long-standing the issue has been.
Look, I've done a lot of research on the Vaal. It's one of my passions. And if you look at the data that is out there in terms of sewage or E. coli or fecal coliform, it is not in a good state. Luckily, when we do have good rain, that obviously dilutes that. But if you speak to the people at Parys or in Van der Bijl Park, Vereniging, Meriton, those people, they live with sewage every single day. I've spoken to people at Oranieville and Deniseville on the banks of the Vaal Dam, which is one of our primary resources within the country. And they have been reporting raw sewage being dumped into the Vaal Dam directly for more than a year. And I haven't seen any response in that. The only response that I've seen is that raw sewage has now been diverted to the non-working wastewater treatment works to an outlet pipe directly into the Vaal Dam. So I think municipalities need to know that people are watching. The increase in awareness and knowledge related to water and the health risks and the benefits thereof is obviously creating that we are having more water stewards out there. There are more eyes on the ground now where municipalities can't hide anymore.
Yeah. There are concerns around just the ecosystem, right? Biodiversity of the dam being affected by this, but obvious risks to human life as well.
Yeah, well, that's the primary issue. And I think how many reports did the South African Human Rights Commission have written about the Vaal River and the Vaal Dam? Basically saying that the water is not fit for consumption. but nothing has been happening since when was this, 2016. It's an ongoing issue, and it's not just within the Vaal, it's all over the place. If you ask the people at the cradle of humankind, they are also sitting with sewage overflows and raw sewage being dumped into the Blaubankspruit, right into the Crocodile River towards the Hartbeespoort Dam. So we know the Hartbeespoort Dam is in a poor state, but we need to work on our upper catchment management.
We're also hearing of water boards on the brink of bankruptcy, just to add to the woes, as they say. I mean, how did something like that happen? Is it because we've just lifted our pedal insofar as watching these boards over the years? Or, was this inevitable given just the scale of the skullduggery that's taking place?
Well, I think there was a little bit of complacency from the 2010s, so things were very quiet until Minister Senzo Mkhunu took charge, basically trying to turn the boat around. So this has been an ongoing issue. I heard you speaking about Magalies Water Board, so we need to look at the history there. They were part of Sedibeng. Sedibeng Water Board had bankruptcy, and then the assets as well as the debt was transferred to Magalies. So you're having this knock-on effect. And I was asked this morning, who's going to pay for this? Should we actually hold them accountable? I said, yes, we need to. There cannot be any bailout at this point in time. Where is the money going to come from? Municipalities are already complaining they don't have money. Treasury has implemented plans. DWS has implemented plans. But it seems like there isn't enough push. I don't know what push is needed for them to start paying, but most of them just say, sorry, I don't have the money, I'm not going to pay. And that has a major effect on our water value chain.
Yeah, absolutely. As we're having this discussion, I'm reminded of how we got to the load shedding crisis. These discussions took place 10 years ago.
Yeah.
People like you sounding the alarm. I'm told we're running out of time, but I have to slip this in. What needs to be done now to prevent the electricity crisis from morphing into the water crisis in the next decade?
Well, in terms of residents, I would have to say that they need to become more water resilient. They have to start adapting. Like I said, we cannot wait for the municipalities. In terms of the private sector, I do know of private businesses that have started to invest in resilience around that, water security, trying to cut down their water usage by 50%. So if we cut down our water usage and industries do the same, that will at least alleviate a little bit of stress from the system. But in terms of the rest, municipalities as well as provincial government, they now have to come to the party. Gauteng is not in a good state. We've got major water pollution, we've got major water outages. What more do they want before we can get a reaction? The experts are ready, we have the research, we have the resources, and we are willing to assist. So I would just have to say that we are waiting for municipalities as well as the provincial government to just say, you know what, there's a problem, and how are we going to solve it?
All right. From your lips to their ears, Professor du Plessis, as always, such a great pleasure. Thanks for coming in and speaking to us. Really do appreciate your insights. Professor Anja du Plessis is, of course, a water management expert and also an associate professor with the University of South Africa.